Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Beavers Batch. I know it's been a while, we haven't posted anything, but we're going to give you two back-to-back reviews of the latest Diwali movies that we had. So the first one was Ka, that me and Ankit went to, so that's why we're only reviewing it. And then we're also going to post a Lucky Bhaskar review with Akhil in it, so check that one out as well. But yeah, so me and Ankith, because of our schedules, like we went to Ka first this Diwali season, and then we went to Lucky Bhaskar after that. But yeah, so we'll talk about Ka. It's going to be in spoilers. We're not gonna, hide anything. So if you did not watch Ka, then I suggest, coming back to this later because there are some heavy spoilers in Ka that, you should experience, yourself while watching. But yeah, let's jump right into it. You want to go ahead, Ankit, if you want to give like a quick, analysis, I guess, on your side of how you felt about it, you can start first.
Yeah, for sure. I think before I can even get to that, I want to talk about KA himself, Mr. Albavarm, Father's Boon. I think like me and Sai were having this conversation before and after the movie, but definitely like because maybe of press related like around him or maybe because of the actual amount of movies he put out, like before I had like a negative perception of Kiran Abbavarm in my mind. Like I wasn't like the biggest fan of him or but I wasn't like a huge hater or anything, but I think this movie definitely has proved to me that it's not something that made me into a fan, but I'm definitely not like a hater or anything of him. I think like we were talking about it, if he makes a couple good, more good movies, like he could probably be this generation's Nani in terms of making interesting movies and script selections. But I'd say Ka is definitely like if before we can even get into it, I feel like the movie itself is like split into two things, right? Like the present that's going on, and then like the other alternate reality. And I think the present itself is like pretty cliche, everything you can see from a mile away. And then the unique part of it, I think they did pretty well. So I think overall, like when you balance those two out, I think the movie is good for what it's worth. That's basically my opener.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think like especially yeah, with what you were saying about Kieran, I definitely saw a huge improvement. Because I mean I've only seen one of his films before. I saw Asar Kalenamandapam, that's the only one I've seen. No, actually, I've seen also Vinaro Bhagyam, that one also. I've seen two. So I've seen two of his movies before. And I got to say, in both of them, he was lacking a lot in a lot of the scenes, acting wise. Even the movies were like pretty average in my opinion. But yeah, on his part, like I thought he wasn't doing really the film. He wasn't bringing up the film at all by being in them. But in Ka, I can definitely see how he improved a lot in terms of dialogue delivery, in terms of just the actions that he's doing. He seemed a lot more natural in a lot of the scenes. But there's still, some more way to go. I think he can still improve. It's not like he's some Oscar level performer right now, but it's a huge improvement and he's doing great. Like for example, like in those movies, I would say in his past ones he didn't add to them, but in this one, I would say he did add to Cop. Like he is a big part of it. Where like if you were to replace him, then the movie could change depending on who the other person is. So he did make an impact in this movie. Um, so yeah, first thing, yeah, shout out to him for, improving and really taking in that criticism positively to do it. And then yeah, so what you were saying too, like I think the story itself is like, very different for sure. And since we're talking about spoilers, I'm just gonna say like, the ending, like I did not see coming at all. Like I thought it was definitely something very different from what we've seen. And the thing that they covered, like with the karma concept and like how the whole thing was that like with the scenes of them in the jail cell was just like Kieran talking to Kieran was like his like consciousness that he's talking to or God or whatever. And like they layered it really well through the whole film where like I did not guess what was going on. Like I was thinking like some sort of like maybe sci-fi concept or something that they were trying to attempt, but I didn't guess it was that. So I thought that was, that was done pretty well.
Yeah, I think they were also really executed really well too. The scenes, like they were done in like a very like thrilling way. And like the first 15, 20 minutes or like whenever like before they show everything about what happens to him, like that whole thing was like really suspenseful. And I thought they did a really good job, and like I thought it was really unique, just not the like actual story itself, but the screenplay, like even like the title credits, even everything like before he gets involved in the village, like I thought all of that was done in a really unique way as well. So I think the movie, when it's those types of like the reincarnation and the jail cell parts, I think it excels in because he also is a very great like villain character, like, or I guess he's not a really a villain, but like we're led
He's a
to like
great
red
character.
herring. Yeah. Like gray space or whatever. Like I thought he pulled that off pretty well. Like he was able to be the main innocent nice guy. Well, I guess he has gray in him, even the main character. But
Hmm.
like and then well, I forgot his name. Bedlesor, right? I think his name was or whatever.
Whose name?
The guy who's it was him, but he was interrogating him.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Like
Yeah,
the
like
other.
he did that like
Yeah,
in the
yeah, yeah.
second half, he did that
Yes.
well too. So
Yeah,
I
he
thought
did really well in that role.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I thought both of that, like the fact that he was able to juggle like more of a naive sort of guy, like who's just like a like blue collar worker and also some sort of like deity, like who's like supernatural. Like the fact that he
Yeah.
was also it's like kind of like if we had to say like Endeavor, right? Like some like connection here is like you have a timid and then you have like somebody who's more like out there. And I feel like even when they were in the same frame, like you could tell that like they were different characters. So I thought that was pretty well done on Kieran
Yeah.
Abelvarn's part and on the director's part as well.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I think he pulled off that second role really well. So yeah, to like round out my positives in this movie, I thought Kieran O'Byrne was definitely a positive. I really enjoyed him watching him on this in this movie. And then the ending, to an extent, is a positive, and I'll get into what the negative aspect of it is. But to an extent, it's positive. I think it worked, and it it was a good twist, whatnot. But to an extent. And then what else is there? So I appreciate, the team for attempting something like this. I think that in of itself is a positive. Whether it be the entire storyline or whatever, like it's just something very new, very fresh that we don't see in Telugu a lot. So we don't see in general, I would say, a lot. So it's a good attempt that they've done, even though it doesn't work perfectly throughout the whole movie. And we'll get into like why also, but. Yeah, these are my positives. I mean, do you have anything else to add
I think
positive?
technically speaking, it's also pretty good. Like the
Mhm.
visuals, everything, the shots,
They
like
put effort into it. They
yeah.
put budget into it. You can tell it's not some cheaply made film.
Yeah, that too. I was surprised that like, the sets and everything, like they actually really fleshed out the whole like area. Like you'd think there were some places that, oh, okay, it's a Boer movie, maybe like the budget is less, but they really did like a good job technically speaking in the movie as well. So I think that was
Yeah,
also
yeah, yeah. No. So getting into the negatives then. So yeah, overall, I expected a lot from the film just because of like the hype that was around it, before the release. And I would say overall I am a little disappointed. Like I didn't think it was going to be like in the way that they showed everything. I didn't think so because the thing is the main story that they do in the whole film is really not that related to the twist. Like the whole storyline that what happens in the movie of him uncovering like a woman trafficking ring that's happening in the village. First of all, I thought that entire stuff was told very uninterestingly, very like slowly. I mean, it's not that it's like slow or lag, it's just not engaging. That whole like middle 2 hours, I would say, of like maybe the first like 10 minutes was all a good introduction of his character and so on. And you jump right in with the Antratma or like the God character or whatever in the first 10 minutes, right? So it starts off great. It starts off like, like, oh, okay, this is gonna be a good, movie. Like it starts off with a good setup. Then, as soon as we get into the village and the whole village drama thing starts for like the next 2 hours of him uncovering this woman trafficking ring, I thought all of that was super uninteresting. Like it just was not told well. And even the reveals that they had within that story of like the main villain being like someone you see in one scene, like you see that medical doctor lady in one scene. And they don't even show her well. Like she's just kind of in the background or something and they suddenly grab her and say, okay, she's the main villain. Like, I didn't like that. Like, honestly, you didn't even have to make it like a twist, like, oh, this is actually the villain. You could have just shown it as like him uncovering what's happening, and it happens to be like some guy or some girl doing it. Like, so I just didn't like the fact that they chose to make it a twist reveal and all that. They could have done a twist if it was done better, but it just wasn't done well. And then even the whole idea, the concept, like when it was like revealed to be the woman trafficking thing, I was like, man, like we've seen that in so many movies. Like it's not anything new. That story point is not anything new. Um, so I didn't like that middle 2 hours as much as I thought. I mean, it was still good to watch, like a good one-time watch. That's what it
Yeah.
felt like. It didn't feel like a wow, this is gripping. Like I really want to know what's next. Like I never felt like that. So, that's like one of my biggest negatives. Like, yeah, everyone kept saying the twist or the climax is going to be great, even before the movie came out. But the process of getting there, like the 2 hours that you're spending to get there, it wasn't that like intriguing or enjoyable in my opinion. Like it was a good one-time watch, and that's the best I can give it for those,
Yeah, for sure. Because I was thinking in the movie itself, like I mentioned to you in the interval, I was like, yeah, this movie's gonna be like a hard rewatch because like
Yeah,
you're not really hooked in it for the what's happening in the village. You're hooked in what's going on in the present day inside the
exactly.
cell. Like
And
so
that
all that
smell,
stuff is yeah, it's all like fluff basically. And
yeah,
then all that is sort of like just added so you understand like the jail cell part, but everything
yeah.
in between, like they really did not like the comedy wasn't really like they tried
Comedy
that.
isn't good. They tried some love story stuff, which
Yeah,
wasn't good. They had like some songs which were not good.
yeah,
So a lot of stuff that they packed it in with, which was very subpar and not and kind of boring. It felt more like, all right, let's go. Let's get through this
yeah.
song. Let's get through this quote unquote comedy scenes. Let's get through this stuff so we can get to, like you were saying, like that cell scenes, right? When they're locked up and stuff. Like, because that's what was keeping us hooked. Like that in the whole movie, that's really all I cared about. I was like, what's
Mhm.
going on there? Like, I don't really care about what's happening in the village. Whatever story they were telling us, I was like, come on, let's just get through it. And then every time they went back to the cell, that's when I was like actually intrigued. I was like, what is happening in this cell? Like that, I only cared about that. I didn't really care about what was happening in the village.
Yeah,
So yeah, and then the twist itself, right? And I know we were talking about this too. It was a good twist, but it was also like not really related to the story that they were telling in the village. Like, what is, in my opinion, a good twist is like something that you've been watching, you're investing your time of 2 hours or whatever in one story that's happening. And a good twist is something that changes the script at the end of that story that you were watching. But this felt like, okay, yeah, we're watching this 2 hour story of, Karen in the village and all the happenings of what's going on. And then a completely unrelated topic comes into play of them saying, like, oh, actually, they're going to be reincarnated now. And that's the big twist. So to me, that's like very similar concept of like, oh, the twist of the character was dreaming all along. And like they
yeah,
wake up from a dream at the end of the movie, and it's like, oh, the whole movie was a dream. Like I would be more mad about that than feel like, wow, what a shocking twist. That's
yeah,
why I say that, this twist is it's good, but like I was not shocked by it. I was more like what the F by it. You
yeah.
know what I mean? I was more like, okay, like I guess you can do that, but it's so unrelated to, what we've invested our time into. So that's the only thing.
Yeah, I felt the same way because I was half like, oh, that's a really neat, like cool concept, and then half like, dude, this is like a whole waste because like
Yeah.
if we like we're thinking about it, the whole movie technically, if you split it into storyline, the
Hmm.
the reincarnation is at the very, very end of the actual story,
Exactly.
and the
Yeah.
story is dude knows like trafficking, and then at the
Right.
end, okay, yeah, by the way, this is all just happening in the last moment, and then boom, so like. It doesn't affect any of that. Him being in the
Yeah.
cell doesn't affect him like saving somebody or like him
Yep.
coming back. Like all of that felt like we were talking like it's a very bland movie with
Yeah.
like spice flavor in it. But then at
Yeah.
the end you realize that like all of that was fake, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
So at a
Yeah.
certain point it feels like even sometimes even more disappointing than just having a bland movie because it's like
Right.
all that was basically a lie. You know,
Yeah.
like it's like you rob the viewer of like, oh, okay, what's the mystery of the village that has to do with this like
Right.
thing? And so many red herrings that you'd like think that like I understand that's like a suspense movie, but like the fact that they waited till the like last second to reveal
Yeah.
that none of this at all had to do anything with the
Yeah.
movie was
Yeah.
like yeah, that was really disappointing. Plus like we were like they really with the ending like had to drill it into the people's mind. Like they
Yeah.
went
I was gonna mention that too.
10,
Yeah.
15 minutes worth of
Yeah.
okay, yeah, this is
Went
what it
on
means.
way too long. Yeah. Yeah, no, like they spelled every single thing out at the end of the movie, like to make sure everyone understood it. I think at the end they really treated people like they're idiots because like yeah, okay, we understood what you're trying to get at, but you don't have to, spend like 10, 15 minutes here to explain everything out. That's another thing I didn't like with the
Yeah,
twist.
and literally explain because the narrator, like, it's not even like they showed,
Yeah,
they just like the narrator
exactly.
comes in with like the, oh yeah, like this is what happens and everything, and it's just like, dude, like I understand that sometimes you have to explain it for like quote unquote common audiences or whatever because they
Yeah,
might be a little confused, but even then, I feel like if you watch this movie and 5 minutes into the explanation you still didn't understand what was going on, like maybe
yeah.
you should watch a different movie because it's not too difficult to understand.
Mhm.
Like they have that one scene where they come out in the womb and then it's like, okay, that makes sense. It was a reincarnation the whole time. But then he's going on about the past. It's like, dude, we don't need all that. Like,
Right. Right.
so
Yeah.
like,
Like, for example, if we start connecting it back and show those connections, what's the point? Like, it's for the viewer to think upon, like, oh, okay, like, I remember that scene connects to this now, and, like, make those connections. But, yeah. So, that I think my biggest negative still stands as like the whole village story is very bland and unentertaining. And then my other big negative is like, yeah, the twist is okay, but it also doesn't connect to anything. So it also kind of like falls flat. So yeah, the whole movie just kind of falls flat, like in my opinion. But I still think it's a good watch. It's a good time pass film to watch like one time. Like, you
yeah.
can't really watch it again. But yeah, it's a good attempt, good like story that has not been told before. That's all very true. Like, we've never seen something like that before. So I just wish that like it was told a little bit better, and maybe the whole village story could have been a lot more interesting if they made the mystery a lot better. I think if the mystery in the village was actually intriguing and people were actually connected with it, even if they kept the ending the same, I would have been fine with it. I would have been like, okay, fine. They did something like very different at the end, but it's fine because I still had enjoyment with the village story. And like, I thought that mystery was cool. Like they could have still been fine with it. But yeah, that spending 2 hours in that village and not really caring for anything happening there is one of the biggest downfalls of the film.
Yeah. I mean, they could also go in the different direction is completely taking out the village story and like only focusing on the supernatural element. But maybe that was like too out there for the audiences. They
Yeah,
needed
it could have been, or
more.
like maybe, I mean, that's also difficult to run for 2 hours, right? Like, what do
Yeah.
you do? Like, if you look at only those scenes, it's maybe not even, it doesn't even probably add up to half hour of the
Yeah.
supernatural scenes they have in there, right? So they probably didn't have an idea of like how to like stretch that out into an interesting 2 hours. So
Hmm.
um, it is clever how they did it, like
For
because
sure.
how they did it was like they started with the supernatural stuff and they kept flashing back to the village as he kept remembering more using that little wheel thing.
Hmm.
So it is really like, an interesting concept. It's just the material inside, like, stuff in the village was not good. And the twist itself, like, was like, okay, that's the only thing.
Yeah, I think for what it's worth, like it's definitely not bad, and
No,
we've seen
yeah,
much worse this year.
way
But
worse. Oh yeah, yeah,
I think it has potential. Basically, the director, the writing, like
for sure.
in their next movie, if they're on
To
like
improve, yeah.
yeah, like for sure, I think if they focus on rewriting everything and making sure it's a better movie, like for sure, I think their next movie could be like much better than this. And
Yeah.
that's also one thing I don't think a sequel is needed because the whole reason of this movie is that like plot twist. But then once you find out that, oh, it's spiritual, like the next movie, you won't care about anything else other than like, you won't,
Yeah.
yeah, this is a twist. So,
Like, I don't understand why they're doing a sequel to this. Like, you don't need to. Like, dude, you can move on. Like, okay, you guys, the directors, you proved yourselves with this. Like that you can come up with some cool concepts. Move on to another one. Like, make something else cool. Take the
mhm.
feedback from this film and make the next one like even better. Like, you don't have to go to K2. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
And there's no cliffhangers or any questions
Yeah.
left too. It's just it would be a
Yeah.
completely new story, which we knew already is spiritual. But
Right. Yeah, I mean, I can we can I guess give our scores out because
Yeah.
I said everything I need to. So, I would give this like a 6 out of 10, six maybe 6.5 at the highest out of 10, just because like I thought I would go in like really liking it a lot, but then I saw all these flaws, which definitely brought down my level of enjoyment. So I still liked it. It's still a good movie in my eyes. Anything above five is like, okay, you've made it like a decent film. Like you haven't failed. So yeah, I would give it like 6.5.
Yeah, I'd say 6.5 too. I forgot to mention that I had no clue about this movie or anything about it before like I went in the
Yeah.
theater. I didn't watch the trailer or anything. So I didn't
Mhm.
have any
I saw the
expectation.
trailer. Maybe that's what it is because the trailer
Okay.
was actually done pretty well. Like it was cut pretty well. So that it definitely increased my like excitement to watch it. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
for sure. If I had that expectation, maybe I'd also feel more like disappointed. But I thought I went into it with like zero expectations at all and came out like, okay, you know what, this was a good movie, good attempt. So I'd say 6.5 would be my thing as well.
Cool. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. Like I said, we'll also have our Lucky Basket review out, so keep your eyes open for that and check that one out too. But if you made it this far, thanks for watching us. Thanks for supporting us. All right. See you guys.